So I was at work one day, a few years ago, it was about a year ago, and I heard out in a conversation out in the hall, somebody on the phone, and it sounded like this. Hey, have you ever worked with Jennifer Greene before? Me. Yeah, is she always such a bitch? So I'm a freelance sign language interpreter. That means I go wherever deaf people and hearing people need to communicate with each other. On this particular day, I was working all day long at a hospital. I was working with one patient who was going from department to department, being evaluated and getting a variety of tests. So, all right, so I overheard this conversation. I was working in a hospital all day, working with a deaf patient, was working all day long. He was going to a variety of appointments. Now, when interpreters are working all day, the agency sends 2 interpreters and we switch off with each other. So I was working with my team interpreter, everything was going great, but she had to leave at about 1 o'clock. So the agency said, we're gonna send a replacement. So far, everything's cool. This happens, we're flexible, we're fine. So I was working by myself for a while, and I was with the patient. We found ourselves in one of those tiny little procedure rooms, you know, where you got the table and the patient and the doctor and the tech and the nurse, and you're all crammed in there, and then I'm in there trying to sign, you know. And so I'm doing my thing, and then all of a sudden, this woman walks through the door like, Dr. House. And she says, what's happening? And I thought, oh, well, this must be another doctor. Maybe there's some confusion. There's a lot of people in here. And then she started signing, and I realized this is my team interpreter. This is not how you do that. Interpreters are supposed to fly below the radar. We're supposed to facilitate communication as if we aren't there. You're not supposed to get the whole room going, oh, somebody just walked in. So I very quickly said, I'm the interpreter, this is the patient. Please wait in the lobby and I'll catch you up. Because, you know, we're working on somebody. So she left. The procedure was over, everything went fine. The patient came out, we all met each other. Her name was Anne, and she met the patient, and he was gonna rest for a while before his next procedure, or next round of questioning, or whatever he was next. And since there was a little break, I went and sat in the lobby, and I was gonna check on my email on my phone. And that's when I heard her on the phone, you know, is she always such a bitch? And now, earlier in my career, I might have been embarrassed or felt bad, because gosh, I must have done something wrong, oh my God. Or, and I might have just like kind of hid and let the whole thing kind of fly, you know, pass over. But at this point in my life, I was just mad. And I wasn't gonna let this pass. So I walked out in the hall and went like, what the hell, lady? And she was still on the phone. She saw me and she quickly turned around and said, I think she heard me. And she walked away. So I just kind of hung out there because there was only one way out. So she had to pass by me again. So I just kind of waited for her, and she came back. She was off the phone and she said, we need to talk. Yeah, really? You think? So we went back in that little lobby, and I was like, what was that? It turns out that she had called our interpreter coordinator, our boss for the day, person who has hiring capabilities for me in the future or not, based on complaints. And I was like, wait, you called our boss and told her I'm a bitch? I just met you. And she said, oh, I'm sorry you had to hear that. Wait, you're sorry I heard you call me a bitch?
No.
But you're not sorry you called me a bitch? Is that what you're saying? She's like, oh, you know what I mean. I'm sorry you have to carry that with you. I think I literally went like, because really all I was going to carry with me was an interesting idea for a story one day. So I was like, okay, wait, what is the problem here? And she said, well, when I walked into that room, I didn't know what was going on, and you just shoved me back out the door without any regard. I said, I was working with our patient, and you were interrupting. And she said, well, part of the responsibility of a sign language interpreter is to control the environment and get your team member up to speed. Like she was reading out of, Interpreting 101. And I said, yeah, I know. I've been interpreting for years at this point. I know, but my primary role at this point was taking care of our patient. And she said, well, I've been working in medical environments for years. And I said, well, yes, so have I. And then it became clear she just needed to be right. And I needed to work with her for the rest of the afternoon. So I just put on a big fake smile and said, You're right. I accept your apology. Okay, how do you want to work together for the rest of the afternoon? And she went like this. Okay. I mean, she totally bought it. When somebody stops arguing with you and starts agreeing, usually you have to at least think that they're giving up. And she went, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to take the first shift, and if we're in a room with the client, please don't interrupt me. Oh, good idea. Fine. She goes, but I want you to be right outside the room in case I need you. Oh, okay. Yeah, usually I would sit in the lobby or something to be, again, less obtrusive, and we'd work out some sort of, like, at a half an hour, I'll check on you, but fine, I'll stand outside the door. So it was time for another procedure, interview with a doctor. And she went into the room, and I stood outside by the door like a dog, waiting for their owner. And several medical people came by going, are you lost? Do you need help? There's a lobby right there. And I was like, no, I'm an interpreter, I'm fine, you know. And then the time went by, and it was time for me to go, and yeah, she never came out, so I didn't get to see her again. Oh, I'm so sad. We were gonna have a drink together. On the way to the parking lot, I was just feeling pissy. But one piece of information she didn't have is that interpreter coordinator she had called is an old friend of mine. We used to work together. So I called her up on the phone, and I was like, what was that? And she said, I could ask you the same thing. What did you do, push her down the stairs? And so I told her the whole thing, and she's like, oh, yeah. Other people have said Anne has some control issues. I'm like, yeah, it wasn't just me. Okay, fine. So I kind of, you know, wasn't real happy about that, but okay, it was her, it wasn't me. But then about a year later, I had a very similar situation. I thought, oh my God, I'm gonna piss off this team interpreter. So I was super nice, like, oh, I'm sorry that I couldn't explain everything right away. And she was like, okay, stop, you're fine. Stop being weird. So what I came out with this is being kind, good. Being overly kind and overly solicitous, not good. Not putting up with any crap, most definitely. Yeah. Thank you.